Okay, this is the review for 6.1 through 6.4, including exponents, which we'll hit here at the end. So on the first section, we're finding the inverses. And in order to find an inverse, there are two steps to find an inverse. The first step to find an inverse is to switch, x and y. So we're going to switch x and y, and the second step is to solve for y. So you're going to switch the x and the y. You're going to make the y an x and the x a y, and you're going to solve for y. Okay. So on our first question, we are going to start. We're going to switch x and y. So we're going to make this y an x, and we're going to make that x a y. So we're going to leave the rest of the problem alone. Okay. And now we are going to list out the order of operations if you need to. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication, division, adding, and subtracting. And again, normally you would work through this way, but to find an inverse, you're going to go through in the reverse order. Okay. So we're going to get rid of any adding and subtracting here first. So we're going to again do the inverse operation. So they're going to subtract 3 from the other side. And then we need to get rid of the square root, which is technically a power. Okay? And recall that to get rid of a square root, you square. To get rid of a cubed root, you cube. And to get rid of a fourth root or a fifth root, you just keep doing the opposite. Okay? If you want to get rid of a squared, you would square root. To get rid of a cube, you would cube root. And get rid of a fourth root, fourth power, you would take the fourth root. So in this case, since we have a fifth root, we're going to raise this side to the fifth power. Okay? And we do not need to multiply that out. This is going to be our final answer. Okay? This would be the inverse function of what we started with. Okay? So let's look at number 2. We're going to flip-flop the x and the y. Again, we're going to do nothing else in the problem. We're just going to do that. And then we're going to work backwards through our order of operations. Now you may think we need to add 1 first, but this is in parentheses. So we're going to do parentheses last. Okay? Which means we have a power and a multiplication by 0.2. So we have to get rid of the multiplication first. So we bring the multiplication over by dividing. So this is x divided by 0.2 equals y minus 1 cubed. Now, between parentheses and exponents, we get rid of the exponent next. So we bring the exponent over. And again, the opposite of cubing is cube rooting. So we're going to take the cubed root of this ugly looking fraction equals y minus 1. And now we can get rid of the minus 1 by bringing that over. So this is the cube root of x over 0.2 plus 1 equals y. And this is the inverse function of our original equation. Okay? Okay. On the last one in this section, we've got y equals 5 times x to the 1/4. Okay? And here we switch our x and our y. Again, we're doing nothing else in this particular problem yet. Then we need to work through the order of operations backwards. So we need to get rid of the multiplication before the power. So we undo multiplication by dividing. So this is x over 5 equals y to the 1/4. Okay. And then here, this one might be a little tricky because we have a 1/4 power. So how do you move a 1/4 power? Well, let's go back to this question up here. The square root, we should know, is actually x to the 1/2 power. So if we want to go from a square root, which is the 1/2 power, over to the squared, you'll notice that 2 is actually over 1. So to bring the 1/2 power, you just flip it. Remember, the cubed root is actually x to the 1/3, so this would be 3 over 1. The fourth root would be like x to the 1/4, so that's x to the 4th. So to bring this power to the other side, you do the reciprocal power. So that's x over 5 to the 4th power, or you can think of that as 4 over 1. You really don't need to write the 1. Okay? So there is your inverses. Okay? So that's finding inverses. Switch the x and the y, and then you're solving for y. Okay? And then we are not going to ask you to simplify these expressions down. As long as you get y by itself on all 3 of those, that's all we're asking you to do. And I would highly suggest using the PEMDAS over here and using that to work backwards.